not trying to censor everything. This is about sanity and finding the ways to say yes to the things that kids want to do and are excited about and that you can maybe embrace as a family, but do it in a smart, informed way that helps kids be really critical thinkers and smart digital citizens.
You're listening to Parenting with Impact, the podcast for parents like you, raising complex kids to become capable, independent adults, even in this complicated world. Each episode brings expert insights and real-life strategies to help you parent with confidence, calm, and clarity. Here are your hosts, Elaine and Diane.
Welcome back, everybody, to another conversation in the Parenting with Impact podcast. I am so excited. Our guest today is Betsy Bozdech from Common Sense Media. And you know, I'm always down for a good conversation about navigating tech. And there is no better resource, really, than Common Sense Media for parents and educators in the world of navigating technology and kids. And so we have today Betsy, who is the editorial director and the head of ratings and reviews for Common Sense Media. So we have the quintessential expert in our midst, and I'm very excited. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's delightful.
We're in for a good conversation.
Yes, I think so. I mean, there's so much to talk about on this topic.
There really is. There's so much more than we could possibly do, but we'll do what we can.
Yep.
So why don't we get started by just kind of catch us up a little bit on how you came to be doing this work for Common Sense Media and just, you know, a button of what is it that Common Sense Media does in terms of rating and reviews that supports parents and educators and others.
Absolutely. I am proud to have been with Common Sense for actually 19 years now. I had a history in working on some parenting media and content and some media content, and it came together under this perfect umbrella for me because I love movies and TV shows, but I love working and worrying about them in a way that is helpful to people and makes an impact. And so our goal is to give parents, caregivers, educators all the information they need to make the media choices and manage the media choices for their family, whoever their kids are, whatever shape their family looks like. They know their kids best. We give them the information so they can make the choices that are right for them.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And as we all do, a shifting relationship with technology, I think. And I truly believe that we launched into a world of technology before we actually slowed down to think about consciously how do we want to use this technology. And so it got ahead of us in a lot of ways. And it feels like we're kind of reclaiming it, pulling it back in some ways or rethinking it. I'm curious, like as an organization or as an individual who's been doing this for 20 years, like, how do you think about our relationship with technology before we get into what are we supposed to do about it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're right. It really has just, it's like I always say, like the amount of content coming at parents, especially, it's just a fire hose, and kids, a fire hose all the time. And like when I started at Common Sense, YouTube, I think, was barely a thing. Facebook was still only in colleges. iPhones, I think, launched later that year. And now we're looking at AI and constant online. The kids who are growing up now are the ones who are digital natives and constantly online. And so, yeah, it has just been expanding at a rate like I don't think anyone could have predicted. And I think what we're seeing now is with the rise of AI, particularly, is people are like, let's do it right this time. Let's really take a chance or take a moment and take this chance to make sure we're doing this mindfully and thoughtfully if we can, rather than just like, hey, it's social media, boom, let's go. And I think we're trying to, but I don't know that we can either. I mean, there are so many people who are putting things out the gate before all the gatekeepers are trying really hard to hold back just a little bit.
I was going to say, I think it's interesting that I'm glad to hear you say there are people saying, let's do it right this time, because it feels to me like all of a sudden I can't do a Google search without AI stepping in there. And I can't do like my Zoom and my this and my everything's got AI and I didn't ask for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying the companies are taking that step to let's do it right. It's the people like advocacy organizations and nonprofits and regulators who are trying to maybe put a pause or just put the brakes on for just a minute and let's think this stuff through.
Yeah, just slow it down just a little bit because there is so much information. And, and parents, I've mentioned to you before we started talking that parents come to us, we kind of laugh. There are three key issues that parents come to us with. There are millions of issues, meltdowns and yelling and all this stuff. But the ones that we hear the most often are my kid won't pick up their towels off the floor. My kid won't brush their teeth. And I don't know how to navigate technology. And, it seems weird that those are them, but those are them because it's all about helping kids manage themselves in a conscious way, right?
I 100% agree. I have an 11-year-old son, and I would say that totally tracks. He barely hangs up the towel, brushes the minimal teeth, and is really, really hard to pull off the screens.
Right. And that's
So,
true for 11 and
yep,
17 and 24 and,
totally.
maybe 59. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We always, that is one thing we always advise people is, model the behavior you want to see in your child, if, when at all possible. That's, it's something for parents to remember. But I think, yeah, it is a struggle all the time. Kids need our help to regulate just about everything, right? And
Well,
yeah.
and when you use that word regulate as an adult with neurodiversity, part of what we struggle with is self-regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with something that needs to be regulated in order for it to be safe and healthy. And I
Yes.
think what we're talking about is helping our kids develop safe and healthy relationship with technology.
Yes, for sure. I mean, we've always been about balance at Common Sense and sanity, not censorship. Like it's really all about. I mean, it's kind of that the saying, "All things in moderation, even moderation." Right? I think we all found during COVID that you can't say, oh, screen time is 2 hours a day. And that includes FaceTime calls with parents or doing school. Like what is screen time anymore? Right. And I think what I hear a lot from the researchers, including the ones working with us, is that it's really, about quality over quantity. And, it's not that it's just how much time you're spending with the device, but what are you doing on it? Are you doing schoolwork? Are you being creative? Are you connecting with other people, or are just zoning out on SpongeBob clips, which my 11-year-old does happily many, many times.
Is right, right. So what do you think is important for parents? Let's from the start of this conversation. What is important for parents to understand about the digital natives that they're raising? Right. So most of us parents, not all of us, but most of us are digital transplants, but we're
Mhm.
raising digital natives.
Yep. I think really, I mean, what we hear over and over again is their lives are online, right? Like you can't, like if you say you don't get your phone for a week, you're basically taking them away from their social life and their friends for a week. And not that, sometimes maybe that is the consequence that you are thinking you want to have, but you need to think that through. It's not just as simple as saying, I want this thing out of your hand. You're taking away or interfering with their connections. They really live life online.
Mhm.
And that includes the social connections as well. Like I see my kids, talking to friends all the time, and it looks different than when I was their age, but they are having those conversations. And so I think they just don't really distinguish between digital life and regular life as much.
No, it's such a comfort zone for them, and it's so familiar, and so there are experts out there who are proposing not just tech diets, but to eliminate technology and to take it away from kids and to go back to whatever era that was. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I think I really like that the whole, like I say, the balance approach we take. And I mean, there's for so many kids there are safety issues as well. Like I think being in a position where you can have your kid not be in any sort of connectivity and know that they're safe and know that they're doing okay is a privilege. There are a lot of people who, if they need to use public transportation, if their kids are going to school on their own, if they're navigating activities by themselves, they need a device to be safe. And I think we need to remember that. It's not as simple as just saying yes or no. There's a lot of gray area. My daughter is in high school, and her school does a phone hotel approach where they all have to put their phones in a numbered slot at the beginning of each class and pick it up. And I think those kinds of approaches or ideas where you could sort of meet in the middle and have a controlled access is maybe more realistic.
Mm. Yeah. So my kids are now young adults,
Yep.
and they got hit by I think probably the worst years of technology because they really did get it um, before any of us had any clue what we were giving them. And they're so good at getting around the things we thought we were putting in place. They were so
That's true too, yeah. I mean, literally, like, the only thing that works here in our household is that the internet has to shut off at a certain time, right? Otherwise
which you can do with an 11-year-old, but it gets really harder to do when you have a teenager and other things. And
absolutely. Although we did try it, and then for a little while, The only app that she could use on the phone other than texting us was the weather app. So she got really good at telling you the forecast for the next few days. Because if that was the only thing she could do, that's what she was doing.
Love that. Well, and this isn't funny, but you know what? Let's take a quick break and we come back. I've got a question to ask you. All right?
Sure.
Do you recognize current ADHD interventions fall short? At Dig Coaching, we have developed a new field of engineering and a new ADHD intervention called cognitive ergonomics from the inside out. To learn more, visit cognitive-ergonomics.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to another conversation. I'm really loving this conversation with Betsy Bozdech from Common Sense Media. I kind of want to pose a comment to you. My youngest child is 24, and he said to me about a year ago, Mom, there is no kid my age that has not been traumatized by the internet. And now I understand that that's in part because he was exposed at a very young age before we had parameters in place. But I also suspect even with all the best intentions and parameters, there's a lot of that happening. So let's make this real a little bit. So they live online. It's part of their social world. It's a fundamental component to their entire lives. And it can be dangerous. So talk to us.
Yeah. No, it absolutely can be. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, my own kids, I work at Common Sense 19 years, and my own kids have come into contact with content that they weren't ready for, And I think in those situations, what I've told them is it's really natural to be curious and to want to find things out. What you need to do is remember that the internet is everyone. It is not just people who want to answer your questions helpfully, or thoughtfully. And I think that because we were lucky enough to, we have a really good relationship and they felt comfortable talking to us about the content or whatever that they'd seen. And then we were able to have really meaningful conversations, like to tell them that they weren't doing anything wrong and help them process what they saw and then work together with limits. Like when my daughter ran into some nasty content when she was younger, she asked us to limit the websites that she had access to help her not come in contact with it anymore. And we had really positive conversations about moving forward and didn't yell at her, didn't blame her because she wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just being a kid. And I think if we have those dialogues with our kids, and they're not going to tell us everything, we need to know that. So it's, also nice to sometimes look at those histories and do things like that and make sure you're sort of checking in. But I hope that if it's not a parent, that there is a trusted adult that they can also talk to if they've come into anything and have questions.
So what you're really saying is that we're not likely to be able to shield them from everything, no matter how hard we try, but we want to create a really open, trusting environment.
Exactly. What our Common Sense's founding editor-in-chief, Liz Purley, used to say, we can't cover our kids' eyes, but we can help them to see. And I think that is one of the mottos that we live by here at Common Sense is we don't want to say no to everything. We're not trying to censor everything. This is about sanity and finding the ways to say yes to the things that kids want to do and are excited about and that you can maybe embrace as a family, but do it in a smart, informed way that helps kids be really critical thinkers and smart digital citizens.
And I got to say, again, I'm telling tales on my 24-year-old today, but he actually came into the kitchen yesterday and he had put some measure in place he's studying for LSATs, and I don't even know what it was, but he had put some parameter in place to protect himself from himself. And I was I guess I'm telling tales on my husband because I'm like, could you tell your father about that, please?
Right.
So they really do actually know that they want a relationship with technology that's healthy.
Yes, my daughter will put limits on her own Instagram time too on weekends when she's like, I don't want to waste my whole day.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents are listening to that going, no way, my kid would never do that. So what's underneath their ability to make that choice?
I think recognizing, in my daughter's case, sometimes it's like, I feel like she'll come at the end of a day and feel like I wasted the whole day. And not everyone's going to have that feeling, right? But I think if, again, sort of having the conversations up front and setting the guidelines, like we have this stuff to do this weekend or this day. And, there's going to be some time in there for that. But how can we work together to ensure that you get the sort of chill zone out time that you need, but also you have time to do these other things like get outside and touch some grass, talk to a friend, come back on screens, but make it family movie time, right? Like let's have a time sitting on the couch. And so I think, at least in my case, in my household, setting those expectations early is much better than coming in at the end of the day and being, you've been on your phone all day. What are you doing? Like making it, maybe trying to make it a team effort to work together and plan things out rather than circling back around and sort of making them feel guilty after the fact.
At the very beginning of the pandemic, literally March of 2020, we were hosting a digital sanity summit, which you would have thought would have been a great time, but it turned out to be a terrible time. We still have the recordings available. It was an amazing conversation. But what was interesting was that parents, I found at the beginning of that time, were so demonizing their kids' technology. And then the world shut down and everybody realized how much we needed technology. And so now we're in this dance between how do we embrace it without demonizing it, but still recognize the danger?
I agree with you. I mean, I think that's what we try to offer, a lot of resources to help do exactly that. We have, parents' ultimate guides to everything from Roblox to YouTube to, your teenager's digital world. And we ask and answer lots of parent questions to give the resources that parents need. And I think those kinds of offering that kind of advice, plus the approach of talking and listening and being together on this and trying not to get into these blame situations where, either way, like again, and modeling the behavior again, like we talked about earlier, like if you can also show that, I can put it down and let's go for a walk together. I mean, my daughter will get on me just as quickly as I'll get on her if we go for a walk and I get my phone out for something. She's like, we're together right now. What are you doing?
This is my time.
Right, exactly. So, and she's right. She's not wrong. But I don't think tech is a demon. I think it is a complicated piece, but an inescapable piece of everyone's lives. And I think it's just really about finding that safe, smart approach to it that lets you say yes to some things, but also I think that helps if you're showing your kid you can say yes when they are finding balance and being responsible, then they know that if you say no, that I think it's a little bit more powerful than if it's just a blanket no all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, if all they expect to hear from you is no, then it's really hard for them to begin to trust the capacity to team up with them.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's tell people a little bit more about Common Sense Media, and then we'll kind of wrap our conversation. Sure. The resources of Common Sense Media are wide and deep, folks. So all the information is on the show notes. commonsensemedia.org is where you get advice and reviews for parents. And there's also a link there for educators, because I know a lot of you are educators. And what you were saying to me, Betsy, earlier is that a lot of the parents like the educator stuff and the educators like the parent stuff. So commonsensemedia.org is where you're going to get all the advice and reviews. And what kinds of advice?
What kinds of advice? Well, I mean, you did a really nice job summarizing it there. Thank you very much. But the advice is really, like I said, sort of focused in these. We have a Parent's Ultimate Guide series and we have a bunch of sort of standalone Q&As, but those we call them the pugs internally. We always picture little pug dogs, but they're Parent's Ultimate Guides to really address all of the major digital topics and concerns that parents have. Like I said, everything from Roblox and Minecraft and YouTube and Fortnite to when to get a first cell phone and how to manage AI chatbots. That's one of the newer ones we've put up, because that's happening a lot now, and for better or worse. And just dealing also with age by age, like what's going on with your 3 to 5-year-old, what's going on with your 7 to 9-year-old, what's going on with your 13 to 15-year-old. And that it brings in a lot of the child development research that all of our content is based in. We have worked with experts over the years to really develop a whole series of guidelines and rubrics around our reviews, and then we can bring that same knowledge into our advice as well. We have, 40,000 reviews at this point, and so we sort of have more than 40. I think we're at 45,000 actually. Movies, TV shows, books, all the things kids want to watch and read and check out.
So how do you navigate that in the realm of complex kids? Like, so developmentally, if you've got something for 7 to 9-year-old, but the kid is developmentally 6, but chronologically 9, how are you addressing that?
it is a little tricky to get into the very specific cases like that. What we always tell everyone is each parent, each caregiver knows their kid and their family best. And so we're going to give you the information you need to make a choice that works for your family. I hear all the time about people saying, oh, I take the common sense age and add 1, or I take the common sense age and subtract 2, because they've learned sort of where their kid is calibrated on our rubric and on our ratings. And, while we do put age ratings on things, that's based on very broad general child development, and not every kid is the same as the kids they studied in X study or Y study. What is one kid's biggest thrill could be way too much for others until they're much older,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had one kid who couldn't handle anything till she was in college, and
Yep.
another, watching stuff at 10 that maybe shouldn't have, but that's another story.
We've all been there.
Yeah, we have all been there. So commonsensemedia.org, where you can get resources, advice, reviews. I do want you all to know there's also commonsense.org. For those of you who are interested in advocacy and interested in research, that's really the broader organizational resource for you if you're looking for that kind of deeper dive, or you like your research, or you want to get involved and you want to advocate. That's at commonsense.org, correct?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Beautiful. Excellent. Okay. So we want to wrap this conversation. And I guess I want to ask you, is there anything we haven't talked about that you think we should be talking about?
I just think, a lot of it is what we've covered. This tech is really part of kids' lives. And I think that trying to put the genie back in the bottle, per se, is probably not the best long-term approach at this point. We need to be able to help kids learn to live with these things productively and reasonably and with balance. And so I'm not really saying anything new, but I'm really reiterating it, that I think our approach is always about finding that balance, finding that sane approach to all of these things that often feel, way out of our control. But if you start with them, if you talk early and often about making smart choices, that really builds a scaffold that you can start. You can take that from 3 all the way up till 18, 24, whenever we decide that we're done. We're never done.
We're never done. I got news for you. We are never done. And I love that term of making smart choices. And my favorite quote you said earlier is everything in moderation, including moderation. Like I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
I've heard you say really clearly we need to model it. I also understand very clearly that can be very difficult for those of us especially those of us who are adults with our own neurodiversity. And so, my reminder to everybody is to give yourself grace, that we're all figuring this out. We're trying to figure it out together. We want to do it without demonizing it. We want to do it where our kids feel like we're on their team. And so we have to be careful not to attack it, but to start by acknowledging, I get that this is important to you. I get that this is your lifeline.
Yes.
For our kids, it really feels like that. And maybe for our spouses, I'm learning something today.
Yeah. No, I totally. Yeah.
I'm in these days. Right. So I really appreciate that there's no rocket science here. And it's a really good and important reminder. This is hard stuff we're dealing with, and we're all dealing with it.
Yeah, and I think that's really true. Give grace to yourself and give kindness to other people too. Like we really don't know anyone's story. We don't know what their circumstance is. And I think there's so much in parenting advice in the world in general. Everyone's always like, oh, you're doing it that way, you're wrong. Or you didn't do it that way, you're wrong. And I think you really have to remind ourselves to approach everyone and all their dilemmas with kindness so that they will do the same for us.
Beautiful. Well, and that's, at Impact, we're all about a collaborative problem-solving approach, right? We use a coach approach so that parents can be in the process of problem-solving, because we want you to be on your kids' team, and we want them to feel like you're on their team, because that's where you're really going to help them make the best choices, right? And they're not always going to make the best choices, but we want to help them make better and better choices. And as we used to say to our kids, at least if you're going to do stupid smart.
Right. And do it in a way that you can support them through it, and not, that they feel comfortable coming to you when they have messed up.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Betsy, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for 2 decades of commitment to this. It's truly, I hope you feel what an important contribution you've made and what important work it is that you do.
I would say I wouldn't have been here as long as I had if it wasn't, making me feel good about what I was doing. So thank you very much.
I feel that. Get that. All right. Well, thank you for being here. And to those of you who are listening, next up on the podcast, I don't know. But last up on the podcast was fascinating. And there are 200 plus episodes for you to listen to and peruse and tune in for what's interesting to you. So remember to go check out the podcast, tune into the next one. And as we leave here today, take a moment and ask yourself, what are the insights you're taking away from this conversation with Betsy? What's one aha, one gem, one awareness that you have now that you didn't have 30 minutes ago? And as always, what's one action you might want to take based on that awareness? What's one thing you want to bring with you into this week? And my friends, as always, thank you for what you're doing for yourself and for your kids. It makes a difference. See you the next time.
You've been listening to the Parenting with Impact podcast with Elaine and Diane. For more information on the Impact Parents community or to join Sanity School for Parents, please visit impactparents.com. If you like what you've heard, please share this podcast with friends who need similar guidance and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.